Hello everybody and welcome back to A Game and a Chair. This is the American Civil War Gaming Club's YouTube channel. This is where we share our passion for all things American Civil War, the games, the history, with you. So in our first ever episode, we began the discussion about which game is the best, and there are 15 different WDS games that we are discussing here. Once again, that is Wargame Design Studios. There's a link in the description below if you want to check them out. So of the 15 games that they have released, which is the best? I mean, it's the most common question that we always get. And in the first episode, we began to count them down, starting with number 10. And that was Overland. All this is just based on my opinion alone, of course, but Campaign Overland was rated number 10. Number 9 was Shenandoah. Number 8, Gettysburg. Number 7, Chancellorsville. And number 6, Petersburg. If you want to know why I rated these games the way I did, there is a link in the description below. Click on that, you can catch up pretty quickly with part 1 of this series. For this episode though, we're going to keep asking the question, which game is the best? There are still 10 games that we haven't ranked, and one of these will be ranked number 1 overall. But first, we have to start with number 5. So for my number 5 game, I have Campaign Corinth. Corinth is one of these games, a lot like Chancellorsville, that I did not appreciate until I really began to look into it more. And the more I looked into it, the more enjoyable it became. So let's talk about the pros with Corinth. It has lots of small and medium-sized battles to play. If you enjoy those types of games, you're really going to like Corinth. There are plenty of fun alternatives as well that you can fight. You've got all kinds of different what-ifs around Corinth and Iuka, as well as just completely fictional battles that they threw in here for fun, and I appreciate that. I like having different options that I can play with these titles. And it also has a lot of really good maps. Once you begin to play Corinth, you see all these different maps and battlefields. It's not just the same old ones over and over. They've got maps from all over northern Mississippi and western Tennessee. It's a really good title. There are a few cons with it though. First off, just from a general standpoint, it lacks any major meeting engagement. The battles around Corinth are pretty set piece. You've got a lot of trenches. There's not a lot of room to maneuver because of rivers and creeks, so you really kind of lack any signature meeting engagement that you play with this title, and I do kind of miss that, but it has so many pros, I'm able to overlook that. But one thing I have a hard time overlooking is Halleck versus Beauregard. This is Campaign Corinth, and yet the biggest thing I think we all associate with Corinth is the incredibly slow Federal advance on that city after the Battle of Shiloh, and that's not included here. And I've never quite understood why. You've got the map to Corinth. Why not just have a scenario where Halleck's moving the Federal armies towards that city and Beauregard is trying to hold them off? It would have been a really fun what-if scenario. But really, that's my only beef with Campaign Corinth. Number 4 now, we have Campaign Atlanta. And this is just a great game. It often gets overlooked, I think, because it's just so big. There's so much there. And the maps can be intimidating at times. And also, when you think of Atlanta, you don't think of any just one battle. You think of just battle after battle after battle without any massive battle, unless you perhaps count Kennesaw Mountain. But I could go off topic with that one. So, as far as the pros with Campaign Atlanta, this encompasses the entire Atlanta campaign. So if you want to play around Dalton, Resaca, the Chattahoochee River, Kennesaw Mountain, Peachtree Creek, there are all kinds of battles that you can play with Campaign Atlanta. They are all included here. It's fantastic. Not only that, but it's an extremely well-organized game. And I love an extremely well-organized game. Let me show you what I mean. This is the file selection dialog for Campaign Atlanta. And what I really appreciate that they did is they put all these battles and all these skirmishes in chronological order. So if you want to just scroll through and fight it chronologically, You can. And it makes it just so much easier. If you contrast this with some of the other games, specifically Gettysburg, where they just kind of throw all the scenarios on there and hope you can figure it out, this is just so much better. It allows your brain to just fight everything chronologically. It makes it easy to find the different battles. I've just got nothing but positive things to say about how well organized this title was. Well, besides it being extremely well organized and encompassing the entire Atlanta campaign, there's just battles of all sizes and types here. So if you like big battles, well, you've got some of those here. If you like medium and small engagements, they have those. I mean, you can just refight all these different scenarios included with this game time and time again, and you're always going to find something that appeals to you and that you really like. So I think this is just an incredibly solid title overall. Nonetheless, I do have to mention the cons. So with Campaign Atlanta, the first thing I always think of is, where's Chattanooga? And you might be thinking like, well, what does Chattanooga have to do with Campaign Atlanta? Well, actually quite a lot. It's the federal supply base. I mean, if you were Johnston, and later on, John Bell Hood, where would you want to strike the Federals where it hurts the most? Obviously, Chattanooga. After the city of Atlanta fell, John Bell Hood actually did outflank Sherman's army and did begin to launch a campaign to retake Chattanooga. Obviously, that was a mistake and it failed, and he didn't even go that far with it. But that was his original intent, to force Sherman to move back to the north and abandon Georgia to defend Chattanooga. As we know, it did not go that way. So, where is Chattanooga in this campaign? They provided us with this ginormous map. I don't know if you've ever actually looked at the big master map with Campaign Atlanta. This stretches nearly all the way to Chattanooga down to Atlanta, which is right there where the yellow star is. And where's Chattanooga? Well, Chattanooga is right there. It's so close. All they had to do was just make this map a little bit larger, and it would encompass not just Chattanooga, but it would encompass Missionary Ridge and the historical Chickamauga battlefield. And I think it would just be a fun way to expand this campaign if they would have done that. But, I'm just nitpicking a little bit. It's still a fantastic title. So, number 3 on my list is Campaign Shiloh. I am admittedly a huge fan of Campaign Shiloh. I just think it's such a good title overall. The pros with it, first off, it has a lot of historical battles to play, and I mean a lot. You've got Belmont, Forts Henry and Donelson, the Battle of Shiloh itself. And included with all of these different historical battles, you get lots of alternatives to play. With the Battle of Shiloh specifically, they threw in about 10, 15, 20 alternative ways that battle could have gone. And I completely appreciate that. I love when they use imagination and they give you all these different outcomes. And they give you all these different scenarios where, what if this happened? What if this happened? And the more of those they include, the happier I am. I just think it adds so much to the enjoyment of the game for everybody. I mean, you could only play historical Shiloh so many times until you get sick of it. And that's about 2 or 3 or 4. And then you just want something new. You want to see, what if Buell is a day late? What if Beauregard and Johnston attack a day earlier? Well, this game allows you to play out all these different scenarios. It's fantastic. So another thing I really like about Shiloh is that it has great maps and just fun scenarios. When you have good maps, it creates the possibilities for fun scenarios. If you have boring maps, guess what the scenarios are going to be? Boring. So having great maps equals fun scenarios in my opinion, and Shiloh is just chock full of those things. As far as the cons go with this, well, it does need a larger map, please. I mean, you're dealing with this entire area around Shiloh, and it would have been so easy for them to just create a larger map, not just with the battlefield of Shiloh, but with the Tennessee River stretching all the way down to Corinth, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Shiloh. And that brings me to something else. And I've talked about this with Campaign Corinth, Halleck versus Beauregard. If your argument is that you don't want to put that scenario in Campaign Corinth, why not put it in Campaign Shiloh? I mean, you already have maps of Corinth and you already have maps of Shiloh, and there's only like 6 miles between them that you need to fill in. It would be so easy just to do a massive map, not even be that massive, it would be medium-sized map, of a field of battle stretching from Shiloh and Savannah, Tennessee, south along the Tennessee River, stretching overland into Mississippi and to Corinth. And it would be a really fun master map that you could use to hypothesize, what would have happened if Johnston never advanced on Shiloh? What if Grant advances in early April 1862 and attacked Johnston before he can attack Grant? There would have been a lot of fun what-ifs had they went down that path, and I do wish they would have. But nonetheless, Campaign Shiloh is a solid number 3. I really enjoy the title, and I play it an awful lot. So we're getting there. We are down to number 2 now. And I have Campaign Chickamauga. We have a lot of Western theater battles here in the top 5. I mean, I guess that just says something about the maps and the battles in the West. So let's talk about the pros with Campaign Chickamauga. First off, it has 4 major battles, which is so nice to have all those battles in one title. You've got the Battle of Perryville. You get the Battle of Stones River. You get the Battle of Chickamauga. And finally, the Battle of Chattanooga. So how great is it to have 4 major battles on one title? You feel like you're really getting your money's worth when you purchase Campaign Chickamauga. It's just a great, great title. Not only that, but once more, I have to mention how well organized it is. And I'm going to show you here real quick what I'm talking about. Here we have the file selection dialog for Campaign Chickamauga. And just like with Atlanta, they put everything in here chronologically. And I love that. It makes it so much easier to find what you're looking for and to play the scenarios in a chronological order. You've got Perryville, Murfreesboro. You've got Chickamauga, followed by Chattanooga. It's just so easy to find what you want to play here. And it gives you a number of alternate battles and scenarios that you can play. It's just such a great title, and it's so well organized. Now, I'm going to contrast this with something else, so let's take a look. Alright, this is the file selection dialog for Campaign Gettysburg. And I don't want to come off like I'm just picking on Campaign Gettysburg all the time, but the title does need some work. With the historical scenarios in the file selection dialog, they're fairly well organized. They start chronologically and everything's perfectly fine. But once you get away from that, you realize there is no organization with the rest of the scenarios. They're just a hodgepodge of games that they threw on here, or at least that's what it feels like, and you're stuck trying to make heads or tails of all these different scenarios, what maps they use, when they occur or are supposed to occur during the Gettysburg campaign. When you contrast this to the extremely well-organized Chickamauga and Atlanta campaigns, you can really see how Gettysburg is super confusing for a lot of people, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I just think Atlanta and Chickamauga are head and shoulders above Gettysburg when it comes to organization. Alright, back to Chickamauga now. Not only is it well organized, but it has a lot of great maps to use, which once more, I really appreciate. I like having a variety of maps with your title. It makes the title so much better. And Chickamauga has probably a half dozen or a dozen maps, all of which are really solid and contribute to this being one of the top 2, in my opinion, games that WDS has put out with their Civil War series. Nonetheless, let's go back to the cons. So, the one thing that we're all thinking, I think, with Campaign Chickamauga is, where is the Tullahoma campaign? I don't know. It just seems like they skipped it. And you feel bad for Rosecrans because that was his crowning achievement. He threw Bragg completely out of the state of Tennessee without even having to fight a major battle. And yet it is skipped in this series. Had they created a map running from Murfreesboro, Tennessee to Chattanooga, it would be roughly the same size as the map going from Washington, D.C. to Richmond, Virginia that they almost have in the Campaign Overland game. So it is possible to build these maps that stretch 80, 90, 100 miles of terrain and put them into the games. Is that a lot of work? Of course it's a lot of work. I don't know who does this stuff, but man, wouldn't it be fun if you could refight the Tullahoma campaign? I think that would probably be one of the most popular campaigns and battles in the club, I believe. It's just there's so many possibilities with Rosecrans leaving Murfreesboro, heading to the southeast, going up against Bragg with all the hills of southern Tennessee. It would be a really fun campaign, and I wish that was included here. But you know what? That's just one con. Otherwise, this is a solid title and one of my two favorites. I just can't say enough good things about Chickamauga. But it is still not number one. So what is the best game of all, in my opinion? Dramatic drum roll, please. Campaign Antietam. Antietam is a masterpiece of a game. I love it. I always have. From the moment I opened it, I was like, wow, this is a good title. And my opinion has never changed on that. Let's talk about the pros with Campaign Antietam. First off, it has a lot of great battles to play. You've got first Bull Run, Cedar Mountain, second Bull Run, Chantilly, South Mountain, and then of course, the Battle of Antietam. You get tons of battles in just one title. It makes it so enjoyable. You can open up this game at any time and find something to play. It's darn near perfect. Not only that, but the title has a ton of maps. They've got maps stretching from Maryland into Northern Virginia. You've got lots of different terrain options. There are some big maps, some small maps. There's just lots going on with this title. Another great thing about Antietam is that there are a lot of alternative options. If you don't want to refight the historical Battle of Antietam, you don't have to. There's a lot of different things that you can do and a lot of scenarios that you can explore. If you don't want to fight the historical Battle of Bull Run or Second Bull Run, you have options. And so I really appreciate them putting all those alternatives in there for us because it keeps the title fresh. And lastly, it's well organized. I'm not going to go and show you all the scenarios again. I think you know what I like. But this title is well organized. It has lots of alternatives. It's got great maps, great battles. It is phenomenal. However, as much as I love Antietam, I do have to mention one con because it is a big one. And that is Harper's Ferry. Why is that not included here? I mean, Antietam, the battle doesn't quite happen the same way if Stonewall Jackson gets held up at Harper's Ferry for 12 more hours. I mean, the entire campaign and the battle all hinged on what happened at Harper's Ferry. I would have loved to have seen that included here, or at least a map for Harper's Ferry that we could use to create our own scenarios. That is a missed opportunity, but again, that's my only beef with Campaign Antietam. It is the number one game that you need to own if you are buying the WDS Civil War series. Campaign Antietam, number one. So that, in fact, answers my question of which game is the best. It's Antietam. And let's just recap the 10 here. I've got number 10 being Overland, number 9, Campaign Shenandoah, number 8, Campaign Gettysburg, number 7, Chancellorsville, number 6, Campaign Petersburg, number 5, Campaign Corinth, number 4, Atlanta, number 3, Campaign Shiloh, number 2, Chickamauga, and number 1, Campaign Antietam. It is just a great title. You can't really go wrong with any of these, but these top 5 are just solid games. It does feel like it's skewed more towards the Western theater. It wasn't intentional on my part. I just took all the titles, looked at them, put them on a piece of paper and said, which ones do I want to go back and play again and again and again? And these were my top 5. So do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Put it in the comments down below. Tell me why maybe Antietam's not on your top 5 list. Tell me about why Gettysburg is better, or Shenandoah belongs higher, or Atlanta belongs lower. What is your opinion about all these different games in relation to one another, and where would they rank on your own top 10 list? Well, I do appreciate everyone who has watched this. There will be more to come down the road. Be sure to like this video. It does help the algorithm. It gets us out there on the YouTube internet world and gets us in front of more people who also enjoy Civil War gaming. Also, subscribe to this channel. You will get notifications when new videos drop so you can stay up to date on all things American Civil War Gaming Club. Also, check out acwgc.net for more information about us and everything that we do. I will be back for the next episode of A Game in a Chair, where we're going to explore more topics dealing with Civil War gaming and our club in particular. Thank you all for watching.